Morning, guys. A little bit of a different training with regards to the brunch club this morning. I'm going to bring you this meal prep seminar instead. You may have seen it in some of my stories. I've been delivering it to some other coaches just to try and perfect it and really get to even more value before I give it to you guys. So it's edited, it's changed. Hopefully going to give you some knowledge and expertise and understanding into the meal prep world. Bit of a look into sort of like my chefing background and giving you some insights from that perspective, like in restaurants, in and around that industry. It's nothing that you possibly haven't heard before from me, but it's only going to re-cement those things in your head if you've forgotten about them, because obviously we talk weekly, bi-weekly, tri-weekly about all these kind of things anyway. It's going to give you some awesome bits of knowledge to then move forward once you're said and done with this coaching program. And that is the intention, by the way, just to reconfirm that. Like, I'm not supposed to, or not even, I don't want to keep you guys forever. That's the purpose, is that you eventually get to a point where you're self-sustained. So all these trainings are supposed to be geared up to that fact. Whether you stick around or not is besides the point. And I guess it's only a testament to myself and how well I can guide you guys. So yeah. If you've listened to this on catch up or watching it back on catch up, you'll have a choice to do both in the Brunch Club podcast and or in the Facebook group. Please, from everybody, all current clients, please, can you put down your biggest takeaway? That will be really helpful. So I'm going to get through this. And by the way, any questions you've got, there will be a Q&A sort of at the end if anybody joins in. But if nobody else is here, what I'm going to do is just open the questions up below. So any questions you want, I will reply. So let's get into it without further ado. Share my screen here. At this point, I would normally ask if everybody can see my screen, but I'm hoping that is possible. And I'm going to, if I can do this, good old technology. No, that will be fine. Okay, let me just change that so that disappears. Here we go. So a bit of a craving curver. We all know that if you get a little bit of a craving, you're more likely to stray off of your calories or the thing that you were going to eat. Sometimes actually, and I'll get to this in a moment, it's actually from what you see, not even what's on your mind or what you actually want to do, right? So the eyes are a very powerful tool in this whole meal prep, eating, food world, okay? I'm going to get into some interaction in a moment anyway. As you may or may not know, I have worked as a chef since I was about 14. As of this filming, I'm 31 and a half. So quite a long time, dipped in and out. Normally it was a come back from uni job that I did over a summer. And there were certain summers where I would cycle to work, do a split shift, cycle to the gym, do a training session, cycle back to the gym, cycle back to work, do another split shift, and then cycle home. I didn't stop sweating all day through some summers. Lovely thoughts for you all there. But yeah, just tips and tricks to help you become cooking royalty, as I say. And that's like the creme de la creme, right? So 90% of all diets fail due to preparation or lack thereof. That is a made up stat by myself. But if we think about that and just digest it for a moment, think about the last time that you weren't that organized, or the day didn't quite go to plan, or you didn't have any meal prep in the fridge. Excuse me. It's those moments where, and I use it's almost an analogy really, with the takeaway drawer gets slid open and choices start to be made with that. Or even on your journey home, you have already predetermined that you don't have any food in the fridge, and there's no possible way that you can make some food quickly, and therefore you've already decided what you want to do. And that's where these things happen. You know, everybody gets caught short. You might be going on a trip, or even things like the fridge breaking are all sort of parts of this. So how I see the problem, and let me know if I've missed any of these here. But ultimately, we want to keep on track. We want to stay on track. That leads into actually not actually wanting to scan food for life and just having an idea and having some recipes in your back pocket that are going to fit in with your calories and are not going to be too detrimental to it, and or already saved into MyFitnessPal for you to just put a portion size in, right? So when I had my meal prep company, this was a very easy thing because you can just scan the barcode, which is why I say you should scan barcodes of everything. If it doesn't scan, don't eat it. Yes, there's a bit of an element of pinch of salt in there, pardon the pun, because there's going to be things from farm shops like most vegetables, if you pick them yourself, that don't have a barcode that won't be able to be scanned. So that is purely through what I've highlighted below as like time and effort. Ultimately, most of us at some stage in our journey will be after an element of weight loss. Without tracking calories, anyone's guess is the right one, effectively. I know that sounds arse about face, but it really is. You can stand there, sit there, lie there on a therapist bench and tell me that you're definitely eating right and you're eating healthily, but you're not losing weight. Okay, but are you tracking your calories? No. Okay, well then how do we know? And even then there's an element of discrepancy. I think I should have probably highlighted this even bigger and put it in bold, but the next one up is energy, like good nutrition. If you eat well, you will feel amazing. You think about the last Monday, and the reason why I put it like this is very sort of Gen Pop specific. The 9 to 5 job, when you get to Monday, after having, say, the weekend off, you'll find it a bit of a struggle because your food has been very beige, very bland, or even not bland and highly seasoned to make it taste amazing once. I'll get to that in a moment. But you'll feel a bit groggy. Yes, partly through tiredness, maybe some alcohol's crept in, maybe some other things have crept in there too. Maybe you've not moved as much. And Mondays is a real big problem. Monday's a struggle. And part of that as well is like just good nutrition, good food. The more vegetables you can eat, the better you'll feel. The more rested you'll feel, the more recovered you'll feel. So this isn't just like, oh, everyone needs to eat clean and eat healthy. No, this is doing it for a purpose. It's not like, oh, you should be eating organic or you should be eating sustainable and it should be within the seasons of the vegetables and all the stuff that we can produce right now and not getting things from overseas. Okay, that's great. They're like the finite details. These are the details if you were, for example, going through contest prep and stepping on stage for your physique goals, right? This is nowhere near where we need to be. But yeah, I'm going to combine the next two, time and effort. Classic problem. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. It's an age-old go-to back pocket excuse these days. And of course, it takes effort. Everything takes effort. If you want anything good out of life, it's going to take an element of effort. The last two, space in the fridge, depending on your living situation, meal prep as a whole might not be as possible, and it might then require the above points, more time and effort. Because if you do have a smaller fridge or you're living with other people, you're not going to be able to take the whole thing up. I actually saw in a story, somebody's story this morning before I jumped on this, that half the freezer was taken up by their dog, not human, right? And I think the family is quite big in itself. I know the guy. So it just gives you an idea of like where our priorities and all that kind of stuff are. Like ultimately, if everybody can prep, then you've just got quick food, right? Just because it hasn't got, I don't know, M&S or Waitrose on it, or it's not being handcrafted by your own personal chef, doesn't mean it's not good food. So even in a family situation, we can prep, and then the whole family's got prep. If you've got kids, you can put 2 portions in one, heat the meal up in the microwave, split the meal, boom, done. Don't have to cook. And then what to eat ultimately is, who knows? Who knows? Even I struggle. And like I say, I've been a chef for a while, or been in and around that industry. So the cause of why we don't prep, and maybe why we don't get our goals, the path of least resistance. Apologies, I just kicked my chair. The path of least resistance, it's easier not to. It's easier to get to slide that takeaway drawer open and not cook. They all of these points are kind of intertwined, which is why there's a big chunk of them in purple. No vision, which is, again, not really knowing what to do. You're a bit stagnated, a bit bored, that kind of stuff. Then the next four are all kind of very, very, very similar. So the fuck it moments, events, peer pressure, and lack of knowledge. So fuck it moments also come from peer pressure. They come from maybe something stressful happened in the day. Maybe somebody was annoying to you at work. Maybe somebody spoke to you in a different way. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was another fellow road user. Generally things, if we go into a tiny bit of mindset here, generally negative things stick in your brain like Velcro, and the good things slide off like Teflon. Great analogy for a meal prep seminar. But they do, and then they lead to these bucket moments and the wheels coming off in the evening. Oh, this and this has happened. You justify the causes, and then your action is something that's going to take you further away from your goal. Events and peer pressure lead into the same thing: weddings, birthdays, nights out, all that kind of stuff. One of you guys, hopefully, that listens to this back will know, stag do. And the lads want to order rounds of certain types of drinks. And it does take a lot and big cojones to say, no, I'm good. I'm going to have a different alternative. And my go-to alternative on a night out or drinking is vodka or rum, and then lime and soda. Love the combination. Keeps you hydrated, low calorie, bish, bash, bosh, done. So that's that. Peer pressure obviously is part of that. Oh, why are you possibly eating out of a Tupperware box? All that kind of stuff. It's a bit weird, but people don't want others to succeed. They want to hold them back. It's why people say you are the average of the 5 people, or the average of the people you spend the most time with, right? If your other 5 friends are bums, you're going to be a bum. And if you're out of that norm, then you're not hanging out with them as much as the millionaires, if that makes any sense. Not suggesting that we're millionaires, but whatever, just to give you the polar opposites. And then fear of failure. I even get it. Like, I'm trying to prepare a dish. I want it to taste amazing. Zuzu is my critique. Not that she'd ever be that rude to me, but I'm just, if I was to cook you guys dinner, I'm just going to be staring at you, waiting for you to tell me what it's like. And that's that like fear of failure of like, oh, I don't want to fuck it up. All right. So I just want to take a moment and I'll ask you this question real quick before I roll into something else. Like, what comes to mind when you think of tasty food? There will be things immediately that pop in. Okay. Now on the screen, if you're listening to this on the podcast, I have put up like a creamy sauce with another couple of other dips. There's some sweet corn on some skewers that look like they've been barbecued. We've also got some like tortilla chips as well. So you've got crunchies, you've got spices, you've got sweet textures, juiciness, all that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting to speak to you at some other point at what you think is tasty food. Generally, it's things like spices, sweet things, creaminess, and that includes like chocolatey things as well as like ice creams. And for me, when I think of tasty food, the first thing that comes to my head is how it looks, right? I'm sure there's been many occasions where you've bought something at a restaurant because it's looked good, or you've bought something in a supermarket because it's looked good, and actually it doesn't conform to that, right? A lot of things in our life come through our eyes first. It's the visual aspect of it first. Texture next. How it then feels in your mouth. That's what she said. Smell. ultimately, it has to be quite close to you before you end up smelling it. And all these points, you know, why these amazing Michelin star Heston Blumenthal restaurants do so well is because the visual aspect is incredible. Now, if it stopped there, you'd still go just for that, right? Because it looks like all the steam coming out and the smokes and all this kind of stuff. It's an experience. And last is taste. And I'm going to get into that a bit more. Literally the most important senses when you eat: sight, smell, taste. Taste is by no means last. Obviously, it has an element. If it tastes like shit, you're not going to go back to the restaurant, or you're not going to eat that food again. Or when you've done your meal prep and you're thinking about that meal in the evening, you're going to think, don't really want that for dinner. So these are all elements that we need to think about when we're moving through and cooking food, is not to necessarily rush it so much. Control the reps, right? Move through the movement slowly so that you get the feel of it. And then we can advance, right? Then we can do things a bit quicker when we've got practice. So yes, sight, you eat with your eyes first. Complete advocate of that. When I had the meal prep company, I wanted food to taste to look amazing before it even tasted amazing. Obviously, when you put something in a microwave, the smell is actually going to overtake that first element somewhat, but you've already got it out of the fridge first, right? So you've already seen it. So the see it, want it, it's not even an analogy, but just the see it, want it. If you think about restaurant presentation and the best food you've ever had from a restaurant, I'm talking like even something like Brasserie Blanc. I don't know if anybody's been to one of those, but they're normally presented quite well. I'm not talking about your local harvester or a, I don't know, even brunch places. Generally, the presentation will be pretty decent. And it's not piled up, right? When I say this, I always think of my grandparents at Christmas, at roast dinners, and you get 17 different veg and 17 different meats and 1,000 different veg, and you can't even see the white of the plate. But they're the differences between two, right? One, you'd be a bit overwhelmed. The other, you want to just dive straight in and start picking it apart and figuring out what's on your plate, like a bit of discovery. Talking of discovery, if we think back to sort of like the lockdowns, and they weren't that long ago, and even if you're bored over a weekend, maybe cupboard searching. So me, myself, completely, like when I got bored, I used to get up from doing some work and I'd just circumnavigate the kitchen, opening cupboards to see if anything had materialized while I was there. I didn't quite know what I was expecting to see the second or third time I went back, but it was just a thing I did. And then if I saw something, I wanted it. So like leading on to my next point about supermarkets, Zuzu and I the other day, we went for a round of golf in the morning, went to the supermarket. We literally just went in for bagels and we came out with loads of other stuff, right? And I'm sure there are times where you've been in for something, you've probably even forgotten the thing you went in for and picked up a load of other stuff. And I'd love to know, once you've listened to this, or if you're listening to it now, send me a message, send me a WhatsApp, and let me know the strangest thing you've bought impromptu by just seeing it. Oh, I'll get that. I'd be really interested. I can't leave anything too crazy, but like I say, Zuzu and I went in for bagels the other day, and we came out with a patisserie cake, some Reese's Pieces, I think some sauce, some dry shampoo. I don't know. It was crazy. I had a whole handful of stuff. So my next point up is what happens if you know that every meal is going to be gourmet? If every meal is going to be restaurant quality and every meal is going to be amazing, like what are the tendencies that you're going to do? You're probably already answering this in your head, but you're probably less likely to snack through the day. You might have even saved some calories to eat that meal. This obviously isn't as relevant if you're meal prepping and you've got every single meal planned out. But if you're going out for dinner, for example, pizza, steak, whatever it might be, or even a barbecue at the weekend, not that we're doing any of that at the moment with the wonderful English summer that we're going through. But if you've got a big meal coming up, you're less likely to snack through the day. You might save your calories for the evening. You might save your calories for that meal. So it's easier to abstain from snacking, and very good word, because you're rewarding yourself later. And ultimately, if you're doing this for yourself and it was your barbecue, it was your meal prep, you're more likely to cook. You're going to cook more often because you're enjoying the food. You're looking forward to the thing that you made, right? Think about, I don't know, grandparents or parents cooking for you. That was what I tried to implement into my meal prep company. And every food I cook is like that real level of like comfort food, almost like leftovers that your parents would make for you or grandparents would make, right? Or somebody else has left over and they've just given you a little bit and you've taken it home and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get into that again. Maybe like the leftovers of the takeaway Indian or Chinese or whatever your go-to is, the Domino's pizza the next day, not condoning that nor writing that off the table, but still, it's probably happened. I now want to move into a little bit of restaurant styled issues and why, as chefs, we're not necessarily, me as an exception with probably a couple of other people, we're not necessarily interested in how, sorry, as a general rule, let me just go back. Let me scrap that. Start again. Take two. As a chef in a restaurant, without knowing the clientele, and even I have a little bit of a problem with this, we're not interested in what the calories are. I've come at this from a 100% calorie mindset. So I've been helping out in a local restaurant, and I actually feel like I'm not going to be doing this anymore because of just the way in which the food is done, right? And I mean that in calorie-wise, not that it's a disgusting place to eat. But this restaurant, the head chef says to me, 3 eggs, no yolks removed, obviously, a tablespoon of butter, a load of cream, and then obviously that gets served on bread, and then you might have a coffee with it. And this is just an average. You're looking at about 1,000 calories, okay? If you then did that at home and removed the yolk and didn't put the butter and didn't put the cream, because you don't need to for scrambled eggs, and then had the same bread and the same coffee, you're only at 577 calories, which gives you a load more room. And I've written down on screen here, in the column below the home version of your scrambled eggs, you get tomatoes, mushrooms, and spinach, and avocado, and you're still not at the place where the restaurant is, right? And to add to this, sometimes when the eggs have been overcooked and they've been they're waiting for something else to cook and they've gone a little bit harder, more cream will be added to soften and loosen them up. So there's going to be lots and lots of things like this that happen all through restaurants, which is why, yeah, fine, go out to eat if you want to go out to eat. But you have to understand that you then have to make a certain decision when you're at the restaurant. It's either picking something that's going to slightly conform to your goal and not take you further away from it, or you're just going to have one of those fuck it moments and have a starter, main course, and a dessert, and you don't really care. Because the chef doesn't care. He just wants that food to taste amazing once. Brings me on to this. It's a taste it once experience in restaurants. Any restaurant, taste it once experience. They want you to come back the next week. They're not asking you or expecting you to come back the very next day. There are lots and lots of hidden calories that you wouldn't even understand. So my golden rule on this is to try and pick single ingredient things. If anything looks like it's going to be in a sauce or all that kind of stuff, you can ask for it on the side. It's no problem. Some things that you might not be able to have that with, but again, with your knowledge and understanding, and you can ask some questions below if you'd like, crack on. I will be able to help hopefully guide you through most menus and whether things will or will not have hidden ingredients. So if we compare restaurant to meal prep, obviously there are some clear examples. The taste it once experience on one side, the longevity of it on the other with the meal prep, and the only real way to know what you're eating is to cook it yourself and weigh it yourself. And even then on food labels, there's a 25% discrepancy. That was when I was doing my meal prep stuff. We were going through all the procedures for food standards and all that kind of stuff. And there can be a 25% discrepancy either side. So there might be things that you've bought, you empty them out and they're not the right weight that it says on the pack. So, meal prep. I'm sure you think in your head of what it might be. Most of the time, it comes from a Tupperware container and eating out of that. A lot of people don't want to do that. For me, I don't mind. I take my food to friends' houses and eat there, so I didn't have to have dinner, all that kind of stuff. But again, what I said at the very beginning, like peer pressure has a real big drawback onto that, because you don't want to be that person, right? So moving into my meal prep top tips and hacks. And if you've got any, please let me know. I'd love to know if you've got any little hacks. So on the podcast, you're not going to see the joys of my presentation, but I have got a picture of Jesus up on the screen. Feeding of the 5,000 was the image with the fish. And the reason why that's relevant is because I want to talk about seasoning. Seasoning shouldn't be shied away from. It's a really, really good way to help make food taste amazing. It stops food being bland. It adds some excitement, and it also adds diversity. Like, you can eat the same ingredients by flavoring it differently. It will taste like a different food, right? So if you think about, let's just think about the standard like bro food or diet food, which is chicken, rice, and veg, right? You could make that a barbecue, a summer barbecue. You could make that Mediterranean, bit of garlic, paprika, that kind of stuff. You could make it spicy, so you can go into Asia with it. You could go South America with it and char grill it and all these other things, right? You could go the Middle East and what's the word I'm trying to? There's Morocco is where my head's gone, and I've completely lost the word. But they have like the baking bowls that they just leave in the oven and they just sit, right? So unless you're going to empty the entire pack of seasoning, the calories are negligible, seriously, like 10 to 20 max, which isn't going to affect anybody's day, nobody's day. You can leave 100 calories in the back pocket for seasonings, and it won't even be that much. That's a massive over exaggeration. And these seasonings can be found, generally speaking, and my head goes to Sainsbury's, it's my local shop, above the single ingredient seasonings. So they're all there: lime and chipotle, summer barbecue, chicken fajita, all these other flavors. And if you can get yourself into a Booker, then you're going to get industrial size versions of the same thing: Italian seasoning, mixed herbs, all these things that you don't need to worry and faff about the single ingredient. Hands up, I don't even know my way around all the seasonings. Yes, I might not have worked in the industry as much as some others that have, it's a bit of an exaggeration, the age 14 to 31. Like, I have worked as a chef that long, so certain areas of my skill are very, very good, but others haven't been trained enough because I haven't experienced them enough, if that makes any sense. And the only thing to watch is the salt content. Your scale weight may go up and down depending on the salt you've had. It's a preservative, it absorbs water. That's why a lot of pre-bought food will have a lot of sodium in it. So moving on, next top tip is vegetables. Shock. We want to just color the plate, color the palette, rainbow it up, okay? My top tip is just to add 2 to every single mish. Oh my God. Mish, that's a new meal and dish word spangled together. Every meal, every dish you cook, add 2 veg. Additionally, I don't mean if it says to include peas and sweet corn, I want you to add 2 more. As a rule as well, vegetables doesn't take that long to cook. Green veg is like 4 minutes steamed, and once the water is boiling, for example, if you put broccoli in it, 4 minutes later. I would always advise to undercook green veg, so that if we're reheating it, we want to be thinking about the reheating aspects of it. So the more you cook it, the worse it's going to be when you then reheat that again, and once you left it to cool down, all that kind of stuff. Packet veg is another golden rule. I'm going to come into that in a minute for like snack hacks. And there's loads of options available in supermarkets in the frozen section: peppers, diced onions, chopped up butternut squash, veg medleys, all these things that you don't then need to go and buy fresh veg and then know how to prepare it. So this is like time saving. You don't need to have a romantic idea that you need to chop it off the tree first, bring it home, wash the soil off it, all that kind of stuff. Dates. When I first wrote this and I went back through it, I did wonder why I'd written dates down. I don't mean Tinder. I don't mean any of that. I mean use by and sell by, these kind of things. I think sell by is an old version, but you've got best before, end, and then use by. This is so relevant because there's a lot of time that food goes to waste because you've pulled out your fridge and it's like, oh, it's past its date, I'm going to throw it away. A lot of foods will be fine. These again are just guidelines. Then they're not going to give it, they're not going to say that the food runs out, what's the date today? On the 21st of August. And if you don't eat it, if you eat it the day after, you're going to die. It's not going to happen like that. And now depends on how sensitive your stomachs are. I don't know, like your stomach volatilities. I know my mum is not that great. My mum's is not that great, should I say. So for her, it might be a bit different, but the use by date is a stricter guideline. These are found on like higher protein products like dairies and meats and fish, nearly said fishies, or fishes, fish, meat, and dairy. They're a lot stricter. So generally speaking, you're not necessarily going to get the life out of them afterwards. And I don't know if you've ever seen chicken that's kind of like off in its pack. It blows up and it goes like a balloon in its own pack. Yeah, throw it away. All right. The best before is, as the name suggests, it's best before. Lots of vegetables, like I said a moment ago, in farm shops and things like that, and even in most supermarkets, they don't have best befores. If you pick them yourself and put them in that little clear bag or in your recycling bag or whatever, they don't have dates on them. It's basically how the vegetable looks, right? And you'll be okay quite far down the line. Things like parsnips, potatoes, courgettes, carrots have a really great shelf life. Cabbage and cauliflower, broccoli, sort of like the middle ground. And then other things like salads, tomatoes, peppers are going to be a bit more volatile and aren't going to last as long. And I'm still shocked at how you buy salad and you take it home and it's immediately gone off. I don't quite get it. You almost need to eat it on the way home. But once you've then cooked the food, the timer resets. So you'll get another 3 to 7 days out of it, depending on how you feel about all that kind of stuff. Like legally, 3 to 5 days. So when I had the meal prep company, we went through loads of various tests. 3 to 5 days is what suffices for like a reset of a timer. So you can cook all your food on a Sunday, and by Friday, it'll all still be fine. And personally speaking, this is not nutritional advice or gospel by any means, but you can probably go 7 the Sunday. I know that my customers, some of them message me like the week after saying, oh, I've still got some of your old food and I'm eating it. And it's like 10 days later, right? Each to their own. So that means that you could actually have, food shops, if your fridge allowed it, every 2 weeks, potentially, because you can buy things that then run out on the second Sunday and then recook it all, and then you've got another 7 days. If we're really short of time and can't be bothered to do anything, and because I don't have the meal prep company anymore, this isn't a sales pitch, you can buy from a meal prep company. I think Muscle Food do some like frozen versions. They're not great, but they will suffice. Loads of supermarkets do their own ones as well. I think Aldi and Lidl do like £1.80 pre-packaged, even vegan, vegan meals that you can add protein elements to. Or if you're a vegan, you can just take that on. You can batch cook, obviously, and you can freeze elements of it. And you can also freeze things in like portion sizes, right? So it's easier to defrost. And my golden rule for anything, if you're not meal prepping, to start the whole process off, is always cook more. So 2 days ago, I think, no, maybe not 2 days ago, it was Wednesday, I cooked an extra large roast chicken, and there's only 2 of us in the house. I cooked an entire bag of 2 bags of parsnips, a whole bag of carrots, potatoes. I did a load of meal prep. Yes, it was effectively like a roast dinner for 8 people, but I now have meal prep that I can just dive into. So dinner last night was microwave the base, the vegetables, add some chicken to it, boom, done. Food will also last longer in airtight containers. So Kilner jars, Tupperware boxes, that kind of stuff. And if you've got a cool bag, this is like maybe another little golden rule. Get yourself a couple of ice packs, a little cool bag that you can buy from supermarkets that help you to keep your frozen food or your chilled food cold for the way home. You're going to get about 24 hours of life out of it once you've got 2 cool packs in there and you've put your food in it. When I used to do my meal prep deliveries, I'd have this cool bag next to me. I remember even putting a Monster in it, warm, and it went cold against the side of the ice pack. So that just gives you an idea of like, you're going to get the life. You don't need to be fearful of that. Staycations, long journeys, if you're on the road for work or whatever it might be. Kitchen skills. This is a bit of a ambiguous one, really. This is, like I've been mentioning through, it's going to take practice. You need to be doing it more often, just like a squat, just like a pull-up, just like a deadlift. You're going to need to go through the movements in order to feel comfortable with them and then take them to the next level. That means either adding weight or increasing some speed through the movement. And that sort of conforms with like flavor combinations and knife skills, all that kind of stuff. And you just want to practice your knife skills, really, just whenever you can, practice them so that you then become better. And ultimately, what you'll find is it will be slow to start with, and then you just need to roll through. Yeah. The sharper the knife, the easier it's going to be. And then you're going to speed your whole meal prep process up, right? A blunt knife is like cardinal sin number 1. So my 3 key tools for the job is that you need a decent chopping board of a decent size, not any of these stupid tiny ones that are the size of that. You need a big one. I said the size of that was like an A4 bit of paper, A5 bit of paper. Forgetting this is going on the podcast as well. So chopping board, big chopping board, and then a towel underneath. Tea towel will stop it sliding across the work surface. You can use a damp paper towel as well, that works the same. A good knife, and then a good knife sharpener. I know that's 2 accessories, but they kind of conform as one. And then a temperature probe. You need a temperature probe to never overcook food ever again, and to make sure food that reheats is at an adequate temperature to not give you food poisoning. So 2 simple veg-packed meals. These will be in a PDF below this training, so don't worry about going too much into it. The reason why I've mentioned these, if you're watching this back, yes, they're on screen. Podcast, I have a Mediterranean chicken, and then I have an artichoke chicken. Scrap the meat chicken element. These are just 2 really cool, quick, easy bases to add loads of veg to. That is a nice little go-to. And like I say, you can season these in any way you want. So one of them has courgettes, peppers, red onions, tomatoes with couscous. The other one has leeks, red onions, artichoke hearts, and pearl barley. Just a bit of a difference. I've got loads of these under my in my back pocket. So if you ever are stuck for some ideas, just again, flick me a message or comment below this training. And then 1 dish meal examples. I had these shot last week. So I'm going to be able to give you these, and they'll probably be in the group if you're watching this way later than August 21. These will all be in the group anyway. So we've got some really cool 1 dish examples that you can put all the ingredients in 1 dish, put it in the oven, 20 to 40 minutes later, you've got your full meal prep done. And you can even do 2 or 3 of these at once, and then you've got your entire meal prep. You haven't got to stand and watch it. So on the screen now for visuals, if you remember the scene in Hangover where Alan is trying to count cards and he's got all the numbers going across his screen, the matrix would give you the same visuals. and Rain Man with all his numbers in his head going down over his eyes. We don't want to be doing that with calories and weights of food, all that kind of stuff. We want simple things that are easy to do, easy to produce. So once we've got things down, we can then just cook them in batch, add them to MyFitnessPal as a meal. And then when you eat them, you can then just pop the portion size in, right? So you could do this with the previous example I mentioned, like the Mediterranean chicken. And if you just want that with salmon instead, you've got instant variety because you're just going to use the base. The base is what gets saved into MyFitnessPal, not the chicken bit. So moving into Snack City and protein targets. I know protein targets are a bit of a struggle, but nonetheless, we still need to hit them. Probably one of the most important macronutrients. And snacks are always a sort of not necessarily a taboo, but who knows what to snack on, right? And like I say, I do have some really cool snack and protein clean sheets coming as well, so that you can cook them, you can even freeze them, and then you've got little snacks to have that aren't extortionate in calorie and are quite big in volume. So my golden, I keep saying golden rule, right? But there are all these things that you can take and you can implement too. You might not necessarily do them all at once, but you might over time just start to do them. So bag that veg, Snack City. You can buy them from most supermarkets. Really easy, really quick, simple tool to use. Just buy the bag veg and then you can eat them raw if you want. If not, 30 seconds in the microwave, they're done. I'm talking sweet corn. I don't know why I'm not looking at the screen. I've got it written down here, but I'm trying to think about them myself. Sweet corn, mange two, sugar snaps, carrot battens, mixed veg, possibly spinach. That can just be added to loads of stuff, right? It's super low in calorie. You've got some micronutrients as well as some added protein in the spinach, hence why Popeye's on the screen. So that's just going to help you to snack well, right? And if you've ever eaten mange two or sugar snaps and you find them stringy, there is like a little spinal cord in them. You usually need to snap them off at the top and then pull that spine out. Moving to protein power, protein targets. Whey paste, you may have seen this kicking around my Instagram page and that kind of stuff. I've got a great little recipe coming and a visual, so just bear with me on that. Overnight protes are a really, really good way of getting protein in, and it's really, really tasty. It's it's like cereal, really, but you're going to have a bit more of a wholesome element from the whole oats. You can add some fruit to that as well, which kind of takes my other rule about always adding 2 veg. Just add 2 fruit. Doesn't matter whether it's veg or fruit. Protein smoothies, really good way to increase that. And also protein iced coffees and frappes and things. So if you've got, I'm not suggesting like a strawberry flavored protein powder, but if you had maybe a chocolate one or a salted caramel one or a vanilla one or a white chocolate one, bulk powders do really great flavors, by the way. You're going to be able to add that to an iced coffee or a frappe. And it's not going to be too detrimental to your calories because you need the protein, right? That's the reason why you'd be adding the protein, because you need it. It's not like, oh, well, I can't have this because it's 250 calories, 300 calories. Yeah, but it's all protein. So just drink it and be done with it. Things like protein smoothies, depending on where your calorie allowances are, they might start to rack up quite a bit. Same thing for overnight oats, right? You could easily make either protes or smoothies well in or well close to 1,000 calories each. So that's wrapped it up really quite nicely. The best preparation for good work tomorrow is to do good work today, effectively. Elbert Hubbard said that. The more you can prepare, the less you'll fail. I've taken another quote there and just thrown that out. But yeah, ultimately to be more organized and prepared, you're going to succeed far quicker than somebody that isn't and is just trying to wing it. The more we can plan, the more we can prepare. I keep saying the same words because I want them to go in. You're going to succeed more than your friends or the other people. Like, there are going to be people out there who are going to be saboteurs. They are going to try and hold you back because they don't want you to do better than them, basically. so that would normally bring to sort of like a Q&A. I haven't had anybody join in. So if you've got any questions at all, if you're listening to this on the podcast, then jump back over into the Facebook group and comment below this training any questions you've got. It will be called, it will be called something meal prep something, right? I can't remember what I called it in the August pipeline, but still. Just comment below any questions you've got about anything I've mentioned throughout this. Obviously, you can revisit this and re-listen as and when. Any questions about anything I've mentioned throughout, pop below. Any questions you've got on anything or anything that you would want to know about meal prep, cooking, recipes, that kind of stuff, just drop them below this. And if you feel like I've missed anything off, tell me I'm an idiot and comment that below too. But yeah, hopefully I can get this uploaded pretty soon, give or take my internet speeds. But yeah, thank you for listening back, and I will catch you soon.